You have arrived to the Plunge Into Prosperity podcast, where sacred wisdom meets regenerative wealth. I'm your host, Brandi Kolosky of Sacral Capital. Now let's plunge in. Welcome back to Plunge Into Prosperity, episode 29, where sacred wisdom meets regenerative wealth. I'm Brandi Kolosky, founder and GP of Sacral Capital, Sacral Fund, and Sacral Sisters. Today's guest built her career on getting complex things to actually work in both the spirit and physical realm. First, as an IT project management executive running large-scale enterprise projects, and now as the CEO and founder of Ethereal Networks, a streaming TV platform, right? She's built from the ground up with an entirely female-led development team. In 2024, CEO Monthly named her TV stream CEO of the Year. She was progressively sick for 7 years before recognizing that she could start this. At a holiday party, she was approached by a Chinese medicine woman, and that's when her healing journey began. She started and ran the largest health expo called the Richmond Alternative Health Expo. She was introduced to Reiki and became certified in 2002, practicing on herself. And then in 2003, she tapped into her psychic abilities and has continued to lead her life with openness and offerings. She holds a certified project management professional designation, a BFA from Virginia Commonwealth University. She also presents 2 recurring conferences for entrepreneurs and executives. Please welcome, I'm honored to have Ellen Mahloy.
Thank you, Brandi. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. I've been waiting for this one. I had to reactivate with you from when we first met, and I was just, it was in regards to the psychic abilities when I had met you and it was the Ethereal TV network. I'm like, well, duh. We called in each other. So for those that are new here, Ellen, tell them why they should keep listening to this particular episode.
Well, I'm likely to be one of the most unusual female CEOs you'll ever run across, in the sense that I have the technological prowess, the business acumen, and I am a psychic. So those are all 3 kind of unusual things that dovetail together to create my style, if you will.
Right. And so what does your version of prosperity look like? And when did you plunge into that?
Yeah, I think it's changed, over the years. I'm 57 now. And so I think prosperity for me coming out of college was just to find a career that made me happy and gave me a 6-figure salary. And I did. I landed into IT project management. I happened to be just really, really super good at it. And I thought that was it. And I volunteered my time at, Habitat for Humanity and different things like that. And to me, that was prosperity. But as I got older, and I learned more, I think prosperity started to become different, and what I wanted became different, and what I cared about became different. And I started enjoying mentoring other females, well, other people. I mean, I mentored males too, but I did a lot of mentoring, and I've done a lot of teaching, where I teach people. I'm kind of what you'd call a way shower. So I kind of figure out how to do things, and then I teach other people how to do those things. And I'm like, okay, this is the pathway, to getting there. And so I think for me, if other people that I know if we're all prosperous, then we all rise as a group. And I think that's the biggest change that's happened for me in the years. I don't care about material things. I don't care like what kind of car I drive. I don't care about designer clothes. I don't care about, I don't care about those things. They just don't matter to me. Relationships are what matter to me. People, heart connections. And and so that's become more and more important the older I get, because you realize as you get a little older that the material things, they come and go, but the people, those relationships are what really define all of your life, really, your happiness, your health, your wellness. And people who come and go in your life, they change how you see the world and the opportunities you have, and so prosperity to me is being healthy in mind, body, and spirit.
I couldn't agree more. Definitely. And so with that being said, how long did it take you to get to that mindset? And what were these big gut aha moments or, changes in your life that led you to, where you are now?
Biggest sort of aha moments for me was when when I was moving through, because I started out at a bank answering phones, and then I got an internship in the marketing department, and I just moved up and moved up and moved up. And when I really got to the higher level where I'm working with, other people who have, the highest level jobs in the company, and I really started to realize that a lot of them were focused on very material things. Like I remember somebody coming up to me and saying, "Why do you have that car?" And I said, "What?" And they said, "You could buy a BMW. You could buy a whatever." And I thought, "What? What?" And I was like, because I rode this like little two-seater Geo Metro. They don't even make them anymore. But anyway, it's like
Yeah, I remember what it is. Yeah,
yeah,
little
little convertible car. And I said, "Hey," I said, "How much do you pay for your BMW?" Yeah, and he said, "Oh, it's I don't know, like $550 a month or something like that." I said, "You know how much I pay for my car?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "Nothing. It's been paid off for 3 years." I said, it's nothing." I said, "That car gets me everywhere." I said, "Why in the world would I go suddenly have a big car payment for?" you know? I mean, what a waste of money in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But the thing was, I started to understand that what other people cared about was different than what I cared about,
yeah,
who were making like large sums of money. And that's where I started to realize, okay, I think my idea of prosperity was different. And when I was single, and I was single for a long time. So, I dated a lot in high school, and I dated
mhm,
college, and then I dated a little bit after. But once my career kind of took off when I was 25, I didn't have time to date. So I did date intermittently, but really not much.
yeah,
And when I did start dating, I realized that I couldn't tell guys what I did, because they would either like freak out and dump me, or they would see me like instantly like propose marriage, and I was just like, what is wrong with you guys? I mean, they didn't even it was almost like they didn't want to figure out whether we were actually compatible. So I would be vague, and they'd say, "What do you do?" I'd say, "I work at the bank." And then they would assume I was a teller or customer service representative. They wouldn't realize like I handled all demographics for a multinational company. And so when they would find out, it would just and I just thought, man, what is so weird. And so I just understood that the way people understood money, I don't know about if you figured out this for yourself, but like I started to realize that money is just energy. And
well, isn't that what you and I tapped onto when we first
yes, yes. And so money's just energy. And so what happens with energy is that I think when people think about money, they whatever they feel about money, money is evil, money is fun, money is, will save me from something, or whatever the thing is they think. That energy is encoded in how they interact with money. And so whether they can attract money or whatever. And it's so funny because people ask me different things about money, and I'm like, I just have this interesting relationship to money. It pretty much just shows up, you know?
yeah,
So, and sometimes in the most oddball ways. Like I remember one day I was doing something and my phone dinged, and I looked down and I was like, "Oh my gosh, my girlfriend had Venmoed me like 2 grand." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, she must have done this by mistake." And so I called her. I was like, "Hey, you actually accidentally Venmoed me like 2 grand." And she goes, "No, I meant to send that." I was like, "Why? Why did you send 2 grand?" She goes, "I don't know. I just wanted to help out with your television network." I was like, "Oh, well, thanks." I was like, "Cool."
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
the funniest thing. And so,
yeah. I was in a meditation the other day, but it was a specific one for connecting with my spirit. My spiritual committee is what I call them.
yes.
And all of a sudden, I forgot to silence my phone. It was just a 7-minute meditation, and 5 minutes in, ding, ding, ding. My phone's just ding, ding, ding. And I was like, I forgot to stay focused. And then I open it, and it's a bunch of new sacral sisters sign their contract to invest.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And it's but also you do need to do some clearings along the way also, right? So
Yeah. Well, shadow work
I I did due diligence for about 90 days with a group that I was thinking about not just partnering with, but raising capital with on a particular project. private equity play. And, I saw that they were of the highest good and integrity and how they handled things. So, but I, not purposefully, but sometimes you put off things for
Mhm.
whatever reason. And I wrote a letter that kind of like broke down the due diligence and why I won't continue with them. I was meeting with my healer, Shakti, and she's like, something, she goes, it seems like you haven't finished something with a group. Like you need to close something. I was like, I keep forgetting to send that letter. And she's like, send it because it's creating some static. And
Yeah.
so, and I did. And that also does things too. When you complete things that create that static. I wanted to go back to the beginning about women. We were talking about this earlier, and I didn't answer you, but you asked, I don't know if you always got the experience of women either being with you or what was the word you used?
Competitive. I
Yeah.
found in my career that women either interacted with each other like sisters. They had each other's back, or they were competitors. They looked at you
Yes.
as whatever you were going to get. You were like, I'll give you an example. I had a friend who I thought was a friend, and she and I had offices across from each other. And she came to me one day and she was upset. She said, "It's not fair what you do." And I said, "What do I do?" And she said, "You stay after." And I said, Are you talking about after work? Like after 5 o'clock?" And she said, "Yeah." And because there were sometimes projects, I had to get things in or I was full. And I was like, well, I didn't know where she was going with this. And she goes, "It's not fair because all the rest of us have kids and husbands and we have to leave and we have to go home and pick up our kids from daycare and cook dinner. And you stay and then you get work done and you make all the rest of us look bad." And I was just like, I didn't even know how to respond. I was just like, I, I mean, I had an odd kind of an outlook on my career, and I didn't find any other females with this outlook. But when I grew up in Hampton, Virginia, and a lot of my friends in high school, they were very focused on wanting to get married and have kids, and they wanted basically to live the life that their mothers had lived and their grandmothers had lived. And I knew intuitively that that would not be my life. And I knew I I needed to go out into the world and make something of myself, but I didn't know what I was going to become because I didn't have good grades in school and I struggled. And so for a long time I thought maybe I'm just not as smart as other kids are, I guess. I didn't know I had dyslexia. So one of the issues was I couldn't follow along with a lot of the things because I was like having trouble reading. So I remember watching the teachers write on the whiteboards, and they would write and write and write till they get to the end and then they would start, erasing at the top and writing there, right? I could never write down all of the things that they were writing because I just wasn't fast enough. And so I would end up missing like about a third of the notes, and depending on how the teacher taught, if they taught directly from the book, I could get the information from the book. But if they didn't, then I didn't know what was going on. And so I ended up having grades that were all over the place. And my parents, "Man, how did you get an A in this? And you
Who's
failed in that."
pinging you?
Yeah, it was just like all over the place.
It's somebody texting you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Somebody is
It's
texting
like,
me.
okay, no worries, no worries.
I know.
I just felt like it was those dings that we were talking about earlier.
It's on the laptop.
Yep, I hear you. The iCloud is open. I feel you on that. My and the attacks from others. That's also when we have big bright white lights. There's a medicine man in Peru
Mm,
he's a dear friend of mine, Jorge, and he said that I just need to be careful of those that are just going to attack me for no reason because
yeah.
they're dark, deep stuff that they have inside. They're dark as a to our bright light, white light, and so yes, and I feel like you and I have similar paths because I just turned 41 and no, I'm not married yet, but I've been studying plants and healing the body for a long time and slowing down menopause. Like it's just how life is for me. And I yeah, all the girls in high school, they all got married, which is beautiful and had their
Yeah.
kind of careers. I was unique in high school in the way that I was in an academy of finance entrepreneurship. But then I also, out of school, I was in dance school, like a traditional dance school as well. But then I also had a regular job where I was a leasing agent. I was very busy, but I was very confident and I was very lively, but I also was nerdy. And so all the girls did not know how to take me. And so,
Yeah.
and so I wouldn't go to lunch and sit with the different cliques. I'd go study in a closet with books.
Well,
And
I
so, but I dressed, popular like, and, my blonde hair and this and that. And I was voted most confident in the yearbook. I'm like, oh, how do you, like, okay, how do you guys, if you guys think I'm confident, okay.
that's
I
interesting.
don't know how to take that, but there's no camaraderie. It would always feel awkward that they wanted me to include me in things, like, it was like they
Yeah.
had to. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel you, and that kind of translated throughout
I
career life as
I
well.
think I don't think anybody from my high school would be. I think they'd be shocked to know that to see my career, because I'm pretty sure no one would have expected me to go off and become a success, at least not a big success. But
Yeah.
I like you, I had a nerdy side, and I remember talking to my dad about college, and he's like, "What do you want to study?" And I said, "I'm really interested in computers." And he said, "Computers?" And he was just so surprised, because this is like the 80s. It's like,
Yeah.
60s, and people didn't have computers. We had one computer at the school, and I said, "I don't know, there's just something I really think, personal computers, I think this is going to be the way of the future." And my dad said, "You can't do that, because because in his generation, computer science was a completely different, so he was thinking I needed a higher level math to do anything in computers. And he's like, "You need math. You're not, you can't, Ellen, you can't do this." And so I thought, "Oh, okay, all right, well, whatever." I said, "Well, what did you want me to do in college?" And he said, "I think you should do art." And I was like, "Art?" And I thought, "What?" And the thing was, I had taken lots of art classes, and I had been in art contests, but I had no idea until he said that he was thinking I would study it in college. And I remember being so shocked, and then he brought my mom in, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we've already got you an application to VCU School of the Arts." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And they're like, "No, this is where we want you to go to college." And I've never even been to the campus. I didn't know anything about it. And I was just like, "Okay." And I remember being baffled and thinking, I can't even, I like art, but I couldn't imagine myself having an art career.
Yes.
And so I remember just, kind of thinking on it. And I thought, you know what? They're gonna pay for college, so I guess I just apply and do art, and then I just do whatever afterwards. But my dad, who was a corporate executive, he was so surprised when I left college, did a little bit of art, and then basically just moved right into corporate. And then boom, I'm moving up the ladder, and he's just like, he just finds it hilarious. And I think, looking back, I think what happened was, I don't think my parents thought I was all that smart. And I I think they thought I was creative, but I didn't think they thought I had the intelligence that would translate. Like,
Now we know we have different types of intelligence.
well,
Like,
I'm neurotypical in many ways. So,
yeah.
and you can talk about, you're a polymath and I'm a polymath, and I'm dyslexic, and I'm psychic, and
I just
and
took the autism spectrum test for the second time. So I'm on the low medium or medium low. Yeah.
I took it. I didn't score in the range, but I figured, what the heck, you might as well take it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but you and I both have, I think we both have something similar, which helps us to kind of connect, aside from the intuitive part. But I think we both take complicated things and are able to break them down in ways that
Yes.
other people can't.
And reverse engineer.
Yes, and
We're both engineers. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought of the way that I thought as being very, I thought I had a lot of common sense. And I thought everybody
Yes.
had the same sort of common sense
Oh
until
gosh. That is a huge one for me.
it's not, yeah, it's not.
And it's
So
not for everyone.
what's common sense to me, isn't on anybody else's radar. And so,
No, they're
like,
so aloof.
Yeah, it's
because they're blocked. They haven't opened. They haven't had access to the tools that we have,
well, also the
which
experience
they
of
do
wisdom.
have access, but they just haven't, yeah, taken
Yeah,
it.
well, I mean, I think well, there's all kinds of, wisdom. We learn in
Yes.
different ways, right? But you and I have unique wisdom in the sense that not just the intuitive, but in the sense that we have been in many different situations that most females are not in. And so we've gotten a seat at a table that is pretty rare. I mean, I remember just being invited to all these different things, that I wasn't even a part of. Like, I'll give you an example. I was invited to the end of some sort of a project and in my company, which at the time was Capital One. I was at Capital One. And they invited me to the thing, and I had no idea why I was there. And I'm sitting there, and there's 40 people, and they're talking about this credit card offer. And they're like, oh, well, if these people have bad credit, then we're going to, they pay their application fee and we'll give it back to them in a year. And I'm thinking, this is interesting. And then I looked around and I was like, and I said, I raised my hand and said, hey, so is there anybody here from accounting? And they're like, and everybody's looking around. And they're like, no, I don't think so. Why? And I said, well, you can't put money into a general ledger account that's a non-refundable. These are non-refundable. Application fees are used as non-refundable. And I said, you're going to put non-refundable money into a general ledger account that's refundable. I said, you're going to really mess up the accounting department in a year when all of a sudden they get these requests for refunds out of
Yeah.
an well, and I said, you need to set up a separate general ledger account. And they're
Yes.
like, and they're all their eyes are bugging out because it's literally the last meeting of this project. And I'm thinking, how did you not? How did nobody figure this out? I'm like, you're doing weird stuff with money, and you're a bank. How
That
did you?
that well, that's another reason why I went into venture capital private equity, because I was also tired of banks.
Yeah,
And yeah. Oh, yes. Yep. I wanted to create my own bank.
yes, and you have.
Oh, yes, yes. That goes into money as energy. I did start doing due diligence on acquiring, but keeping her on a woman-led bank. I am still looking at them, of course, but I'm waiting for the the latest technology to kind of set in place, right? Like blockchain and stable coins. I mean, why aren't we? You can't be over leveraging on your banks. Like one to one is great. I mean,
Yeah, I understand. I
yes,
understand
you
that.
do. I know you do.
A hot minute, but now obviously I'm in TV, which is like a whole different
Yes, so let's go there.
yeah.
After you were extremely ill from working in corporate world, of course, and just like going hard. And then also because there are messages in the pain, and it's because it's guiding us into the place and way in which we need to move into that next ascension of our life. And so sometimes a sickness is needed for a big awakening, breakdown to a breakthrough. And so you were approached by this medicine woman at a holiday party, a Chinese medicine woman. Tell us this journey. And
Yeah, so I had been getting progressively sicker, and I was doing what my family would do, which was going to traditional medical doctors. And I was going to doctor to doctor to doctor, trying to figure out like what was wrong with me. And at
yeah,
first, they actually didn't take me very seriously. They said, "You're just a stressed out corporate executive." And I thought, yeah, I'm not that stressed, really. I'm pretty I'm
yeah,
like what I do and I'm successful at it and whatever. And so that didn't make a lot of sense. But then when I started getting organ failure, that's when they started to take me seriously. But they didn't know what was wrong. And I reached a point where I was beginning to think that I was going to die, like I wasn't going to make it to 40. And because I was getting just increasingly sick, and at the time my mother had cancer and was dying. And
gosh,
it was real horrible. I didn't even want to explain to the rest of my family how sick I was because, everyone was so focused on my mom
yeah,
dying. And but I had reached a point where I didn't know what to do. And so I was just praying about it. I was like, God, if you want me to continue doing anything in life, you're going to have to help me figure this out.
yeah,
About that Korean lady. And so she was just a turning point for me because she said to me, look, she came up and she said, we do facial diagnosis in Asia. She said, and I know that you are gravely ill. And I said, I'm gravely ill. And she said, come to my office on Monday. I'll tell you what's wrong with you. And I thought, okay, well, what the heck? Why not? 7 years of doctors has not gotten me to anywhere.
Yeah.
So I show up at her office and she said, you are severely gluten intolerant. And I didn't even know what gluten was. I'd never heard of
What
it.
year was this?
This was on, let's see, gosh, I can't even remember. Probably around
2002?
around 2000, 2001, something like
Yep.
that. And so it was around that time. But anyway, she told me I was
Yeah, that
gluten.
wasn't really a thing then.
It wasn't a thing. No.
No,
And
there was, yeah, they
nope,
were, no.
it was not a thing. And I also had a corn intolerance and a dairy intolerance. And so it was a
Well,
tri.
yeah, it sounds like genetically modified foods. So to pause you there real quick, I don't know if it's because I also am, or that I've just been eating so clean 90%, 80% of my diet. You can't do that when you go out to restaurants, but 90, 80% of my diet is super clean and I handpick what I'm eating. And
Yes.
that last year when I was traveling a lot, I went to this chiropractor, but he's also a healer. And he had this like little book that you open up and has all these little vials and almost like magnets, right? Or like movement. And we were doing some testing and he's like, sugar, your body hates like processed sugar. And it was true because I only use monk fruit or honey or coconut nectar. And being on the road and traveling, everything has sugar already like in it, even in the food at restaurants. And then he goes, "Okay, your body hates GMOs." And I was like, "Well, yeah, it attaches to your genetics when you eat it, right? And it's just like a complete alter." And so he's like, he has these supplements that are just apps like plants, like just they were so great. And he's like, take this and take this right before, and it worked, and then I just have to do serious detoxes afterwards of some sort and get
Yeah.
really healthy. Yep.
I'm
After my
doing the
travels.
same
Like,
things.
I'm feeling it right now. I was just in New York for 4 days in the city, and I'm feeling it right now. Like, that's why I'm a little stuffy, you hear me, and I'm not normally like this, but I was just in Puerto Rico for several months. I haven't used my regimen, right? So, yeah.
We're doing the same thing. So once I figured out wrong, that opened a doorway because she was an acupuncturist. And so I started doing acupuncture, chiropractic. I met
Yeah.
a naturopath. I started doing, so it just opened up this whole world of, what they call integrative medicine. I think they were calling it alternative medicine back then. But
Yes.
anyway, that just opened up this plethora of things and breath work and meditation and yoga and, yada, yada, yada. And so it just went on and on, but it enriched my life in ways that I don't even have the whole, yeah, time to describe. I mean,
No,
but my
I
family,
think that's a beautiful way to say it, enriched, yeah.
yeah, it was just wonderful for me. And that's what led me into meeting all these practitioners and ultimately led me into Reiki, which which was a game changer for me. And it's one of my favorite modalities and just something that, I'm very passionate about, but that's my jam. But it took me after the woman diagnosed me and changed my diet immediately. It was about 3 months later, almost 70% of my symptoms were gone. And then it took 3 years to completely heal. So like I had lost about 1/3 of my hair. It had just fallen out. And
Wow.
you can see hair is kind of a big deal for me. So I
Yeah, same.
I didn't think it was ever gonna come back. I was like, "Okay." And I was trying to, like, decide, "Okay, at what point am I just gonna, like, cut it short?" And, and I so anyway, so it all grew back in, all grew back in, and when
Yeah,
I hairdressers today, like, I was at the hairdresser a few days ago, and she said, "You have more hair than most teenagers I work with." She goes, "It's just shocking that you're 56."
but now with the teenagers and the food, I can't imagine.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
I can't do
yeah. Well, junk food of my generation is so much worse now, and I've got a
that.
13-year-old, so trying to keep her, get her to choose sushi and salads and, eat cucumbers with hummus as
Yeah,
opposed to these junky things. It's just, it's an uphill battle. But But anyway,
It is.
so
Yeah.
this all changed my life, and I ended up leaving my corporate career after I was my last big corporate job. I was working with Sirius at
Yeah.
the time. It was Satellite Radio. So this was before Sirius and XM joined,
Yep.
and so I was ground floor of that endeavor, and that was my last like hurrah. And then I went off and I practiced Reiki for 20 years basically, and then I got into this television network. So
Uh, And so, but as far as when you were practicing the Reiki, when did your psychic abilities come forward? Because as you and I shared before, we're all born already with different clairs. There's a bunch of different
yes,
clairs, right?
absolutely.
There's a 9. Is there 9 clairs or 12? 9, 12.
There's a lot of them. So and they no, so for me, it's funny because I look back now after I was psychic the way I am today, which happened in 2023. And so what occurred for me was took a Reiki class in 2021, and it was
Yeah.
love. And that was like where my love of Reiki came from, that class. And then in 2023, I married my first husband, and our wedding gift from his kung fu instructor was Reiki level 2. I didn't even know what level 2 was. And when he did the attunement, which is a sacred ceremony, instead of having just this peaceful, loving, like spiritual experience, I
Yeah.
had the doors blow off my clairvoyance. And all of a sudden, I was seeing dead people initially. And that was
Yeah.
shocking. And so people kept coming to me and they were talking to me, asking me to call their relatives, asking me to help solve crimes for their death, and just all kinds of stuff. And it was just like completely crazy. And so I kept thinking, oh my gosh, this is bananas, and I was a little worried initially that maybe it was late onset mental illness. So I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And yeah, so I remember telling my first husband, I said, "Hey, look, if I just want to say now while I can say it, that if you need to put me in a hospital or whatever, just do it." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, this psychic thing isn't going away. This could be some sort of mental illness." And he said, "Ellen, you're not doing anything weird. You're just seeing weird stuff." He goes, "If you were like running around the neighborhood naked or freaked out." He goes, "But you're still you." He goes, "I don't think you're mentally ill. I think you're psychic." And so, but it wasn't until I
Who is
started.
this again?
This is my first husband said this. This is my
Okay.
and so he's very spiritual, so he was really kind of open to this. But it wasn't until it took me about a year and a half of coming to terms with, okay, I this psychic thing is not going away. It's very
Yeah.
strange. I have to come to terms with this somehow and integrate this into my life. And it was not, if you'd asked me to list like 100 things I might do, psychic would not have been on the list. I would have said race car driving or, whatever,
Yeah.
aviation. What I mean, I would never have thought.
You actually were just tapping into things right now, just saying that.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah.
with but anyway, but what happened was I finally got a grip on it. And I remember saying to myself, because it was very all over the place in the beginning. Like I was just tapping into stuff I didn't need to know about, like stuff that was going on with my neighbors or stuff that was going on
Yeah.
with a restaurant. I would know what was happening with everyone in the radius.
Yeah. I sit
This
next to people and I'm like, "Oh, they're in so much pain."
Yes. Yeah, like this person has this health problem, this person's cheating on their spouse, this person's upset because they just lost a promotion or what. I would just know all this weird stuff. I
Yeah.
remember I remember going I was in the movie theater and they had this big poster and it was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. And I remember walking past it and I just went, "Oh, he's cheating on Jennifer." And my husband's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "He is cheating on Jennifer with this." And he was like, I don't, he didn't even know what to say, but it just hit me as soon as I saw the energy, because I could read auras and I saw the energy between,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and I was just like,
Definitely. When you were at Sirius, was Martine Martin at the time? Rothblatt?
it sounds very familiar,
Well,
but
he's the one of the original owners, the founders.
yeah, I don't think I met him. I was tech side, so he was probably on the business development side,
Yeah,
and
he ended up trans to Martine. My aunt is his accountant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I worked mostly with
Her
Michael Moore,
accountant, excuse me.
Meta, those guys, and Heidi Nadler, who's their chief financial officer. I worked with her.
Yes. Okay. Got it. Yep.
She's still there. I mean, she left and went to the MBA. Now she's back. But yeah, those were the people that I worked with. But so I had to figure out how to integrate this whole psychic thing, and I did figure out how to integrate it. And for me, it it ended up kind of changing form over the years, but it
Yeah.
started out with dead people, and then I figured out how to deal with the dead people
Well,
and to talk to
just
them.
now you tapped in because I was just cross-referencing before I said anything because
For
I'm investing in aviation and I launched into venture capital private equity in racing, so Formula One. So, and when I was cross-referencing Martine just now, she currently also owns and invests in aviation.
uh,
So you were, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to contact her." So you were just channeling.
or I have a lot of different skills, but one of my skills is I can read the energy around people.
Okay,
So
go
so which
ahead.
is extremely helpful in negotiation, by the way. And so,
Yes,
but I
go ahead right now with me.
yeah, I just do it naturally. I don't
Okay.
try.
Oh, it's not on the spot. Right. You just
Well, I can do it on the spot if I have to, but I
yeah,
usually, so what I do is I keep my psychic ability what I call turned off, but it's really turned like low.
down. Yeah, low. Yeah.
I turn it on so that I can, go do normal things like
Oh,
take
yes.
the Girl Scouts and go to the grocery store and not be barraged by,
Yep.
normal things. And
Same.
so I just kind of keep it on the down low. But I don't know, do you want me to read you?
Whatever you'd like. I don't know. People might find it interesting out there.
You think it's interesting? Well,
People would. I don't know.
let's just do it, girl. Let's just do it. All
Okay.
right. I'm going to get in the zones. Angels, create the ideal sacred space around us. Not my will, but thine, Lord. Work in me and through me. Let me ever be a channel of blessings. Let my coming in and going out be in accord with what thou would have me do. Okay, so you have a lot of things going on in your aura. It's very, very busy, more busy than most people. And you also have a much larger aura than most people. So you would have like a triple sized aura. And so the combination of having a triple sized aura and having all of these things going on in your aura, it's a little bit busy, but you have some colors, you have pops of color. Almost every color in the rainbow is showing up somewhere in your giant aura. And so normally what happens is the people that you talk to on a regular basis, they're in your aura. So you're talking to a lot of people on a regular basis, like a lot,
Well,
like I talked to
both ethereally and physically.
yes. Yeah. And you're also formulating, like, you've got a lot of what I call thought clouds up here, which is stuff you're percolating on. So like I can go into a thought cloud and I can like read your thought cloud, but I won't. That's too complicated for the moment.
Yes.
But anyway, you have a lot going on. And so, but the underlying aspect of your entire aura is both light pink and orange, and that emanates from your center. And light pink is unconditional love, and orange is relationships. And so that means to me, when I look at your aura, every single thing you do involves unconditional love and involves relationships. So that's your like core, how you engage the world.
Thank
And
you so much for that. I will give validation to it and to our listeners. I was put in meditation school when I was 15. And well, we didn't call it meditation school, it was called live stream. It was too woo-woo then to be called that. And we looked up to the dolphin as a spiritual figure reminder to remain unconditional. And so it's a tattoo on my foot. The only
I've done
tattoo I have. Yeah. It's on top of my foot. And then the relationships, yes, my day to day is constant relationship. It's meeting women like you and creating the Sacral Sisters community that goes with my sacral fund and sacral capital.
yeah,
And I'm constantly having these talks and relationships built with those that we will be stewarding with. So it makes a lot of sense. And relationships are very important to me. That's like you said earlier, that's the prosperity,
they
right?
are for me too.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a lot of commonalities
We
between us.
do, we do, we do. All right,
Like,
let's move into Ethereal Network now that
yeah,
we've tapped
yeah.
into that.
Well, gosh, there's so much. I don't even know. What direction do you want
Well,
to go?
let's keep it streamlined and just go from you've built and run platforms in two very different worlds,
Yeah.
enterprise tech infrastructure on one side, and now the media company you've built from scratch with an all-female team on the other. Going from scaling large IT projects, and then what did that transition teach you about what it actually takes to fund and build something from zero versus
Um,
executing inside an existing structure like Capital One?
well, it was interesting because I was at Capital One when it was not Signet Bank. Yes, it was another bank and that spun off. And
Yep.
so I was there during the spinoff, which was, only like a few thousand of us were there. And so when I got my first opportunity at the bank, which was to be an intern in the marketing department, the way the company operated was very, very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
It was like the Wild West. And so people were just like throwing things at me. And I remember
Wow.
thinking, why do you even think I can do this? And I was just like, well, I guess, they don't have anybody to do this. So I'll do this. And so I learned how to operate in a just an unusual environment where things were moving very fast, and so that is a little different than being in a startup, right?
Yes.
So with this startup, it's a little bit different than my other startups, because my other startups I've been involved in the start. This one, it was someone else's idea and they brought me in, and they
Okay.
brought me in to do the technical pieces. And so I was only supposed to do that. And I have no background in entertainment, and I don't know anything about filmmaking or whatever. So
Well, on paper.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just like staying in my lane, so to speak. But then we had a big technical explosion. Like, a guy basically blew up our entire production system. And we had to decide very quickly, were we going to try to salvage the production system, or were we going to build another production system?
Did
And
he blow it up or did
well,
somebody else blow it up? Because
yeah, so it's funny. I call it a divine setup when like
yeah,
happens, and
yeah.
you're just like, what? And so I
I
call it,
I
but
embrace those. Like, now I've learned to embrace
yeah,
the breakdowns because it's like, yeah, so now I have more smaller ones instead of these huge,
yeah.
big random ones. I'm prepared if a big one comes, but
Well,
I
this
love this, like,
was
just like, let's go. Bring a breakdown fast.
well, what we could have recovered from it, but it was it was for I think some of the other parts didn't who weren't. I was the one that was savvy in tech, and the others weren't. And so I think for them, when the guy blew up the production system, it just freaked them out, and they just were like, okay, we can't handle this. This is sending us over the edge of sanity. And
Yeah,
I knew we could rebuild it, even if I had to rebuild it from scratch with a
yeah,
different person, because of the stage we were at, and I understood all the components in it. So, but anyway, all those partners that were involved in that first, within months they were gone. All of them left and went off to do other things. And so I was left kind of going, okay, what do I do? Everybody else is left. Now it's just me. And very quickly, people from other businesses that I was involved in
yeah.
called me to the meeting and said, we're going to be your business partners. And in 24 hours, like, I switched all my business partners. It was really crazy. And so, but as this has evolved, I've realized that there were components that would make this successful, that if I was not involved in the development of these components, this would not work. And so, for instance, we're doing something kind of really unusual, not just in the technology, because the technology that we're doing is not really that unusual. But most people that build streaming television technology don't have television networks. They're building it so other people who have content can buy the technology, right? And so that's the way so we're odd in the fact that we are actually building every component of our television network. And so anyway, what happened
Right,
was,
that's
I realized
owning your IP, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, exactly. But also, if someone else has your tech, then you can't innovate because they have it. And so you don't
yeah.
have control over, what I mean, new things
Oh,
come
yeah.
out, features are new, so I need to own it. And so I would rather do it slow and build one component at a time. You understand.
Yes.
You get where I'm coming from. And so, but not everybody understands that. And so it's okay. Usually when I'm doing something that's really complicated, people just have to wait till I got it done. And then they're like, oh, now I understand what you're doing, Ellen. Now, okay. I didn't get it. Now get it.
Same.
So anyway, but the piece really that's been the linchpin has not been the tech. The tech is actually pretty relatively straightforward with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
It's content piece that's challenging because most television networks until recently were operated in a very particular way. They had scripted series, they had actors, or they had TV personalities. We're not doing that. We're bringing in content creators.
Yes.
And content creators need support because what we're doing is we're trying to level them up so that their production value becomes as high as possible so that are like the higher end of something on YouTube, right? They're not at the middle or the lower end of YouTube, which is how most average people end up creating content, is at the lower end, right?
Yeah.
So figure out how to help them do that and to do it in an entirely virtual company because we need to serve people all over the entire globe. And so we need editors all over the globe and content creators are all over the globe. And, and then we've got production staff are all over the globe. And so that is turned into, that's a really complicated workflow.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of workflow, right? And so I jumped into that side of the business and have helped figure out all of that piece. And then the workflow informs the technology because now to support this workflow, we have to have XYZ built into our I know I can see it's like
this is how I think.
Yeah. So we're like soul sisters. And so you understand what I'm talking about. So I have been involved
I get excited hearing this.
Yeah. Me too. And so, but I don't meet that many people that are like excited about this. So I don't really talk about it to normal people very much. I just like my sister-in-law said one day she called me and she's like, "Hey, I think I misunderstood what you're doing." I was like, What do you mean?" And she goes, "You have a YouTube channel, right?" I said, No, I don't have a YouTube channel. I mean, we have a YouTube channel, but I said, "No, we have a television network." And she goes, "What does that mean?" And I said, "Well,
because no one remembers what, like, all you hear is streaming."
Right. And I said, "Well, you know how you go on TV and you like click the apps and it like launches and you can watch stuff?" And I said, "Like Netflix?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, we got that."
Yeah.
And she's like, "But anyway, it's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Fun."
It is.
And I have like a good, dozen people I can like nerd out and talk about this with, and everybody else just doesn't really get it. You know what I mean? And that's fine. They'll get it later, like a year or two on the road. Like they'll start to go, "Oh, this is what you put in your time and energy into now, for a few years." So it's really fun for me, but I love a good challenge. So I love a good problem to solve, and this has provided lots of really interesting business problems. But I think the future of television is full merge of social media reels with television platforms. And I think we see that evident in the fact that, Netflix was kind of the king of the hill for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden YouTube goes on TV and they blow Netflix away.
Agreed.
And so this and YouTube was
now there's podcasts on YouTube. I mean, on Netflix.
Yes, there's everything. And so, but YouTube was considered a video service. Nobody considered YouTube real television or entertainment. Yeah. And then it was considered like social media, right? Video service. And then when it went on TV, there's so much viewership that they had to put it in the Nielsen's. And so first time ever, something like that's been in the Nielsen's. But that tells you something about the direction things are going. I think people are thirsty for authenticity.
I think so too. And that's another thing that you and I connected on. I'm making a note here to introduce you to Prashant Shah.
Okay.
He is the largest Bollywood production company in the world. He also just acquired sports.com to turn that into a network.
Okay.
But this is just what he does, eat, breathes. He has studios all over the world. So, and he's one of my advisors and dear friends. I was in his film with Priyanka Chopra. That was my last dance gig when I danced professionally. I would say 2008, I believe, something of this nature. So, yes. And that last sentence that you just stated, repeat that again regarding the authenticity of how
I
ethereal is going to
I
come
think
out.
people are thirsty for authenticity.
Yes.
I think they're barraged by so much that isn't authentic, that, is persuasive, manipulative,
Yep.
on
I can
TV,
smell it.
on
Yeah,
social
I
media.
I can smell it and I can feel it and I just go, "Ugh." Yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
And people are being and AI is not making that better. It's making it
No.
worse. Now you don't even know. Like, I'll give you an example. I had a kidney stone in December, so I was like high on pain medicine, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't work, I can't do anything. So I'm like scrolling on, TV or YouTube. And I found these videos and they were like, oh, so cute. And it was like these animals that would were at an SPCA or somewhere, and they would let the animals go and the animal would like pick the person. And I'm watching these, I'm like, and my husband comes out, I'm crying, I'm like, oh, these animals, they're finding their person. And he's like, what in the world? And so then all of a sudden I noticed there's a woman with a very particular scarf, and she's in another video in the same outfit with a totally different animal. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. This woman came out for a different animal? And so then I was like, let me go look in this channel. So I go in the channel, all the videos are fake. All of them. Literally watching these videos crying over nothing.
Yeah, and you were blessed by the pain meds. Yeah, the veil.
And all I could think was, how many people are watching this and thinking like me?
90%. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, the thing is, we're going to end up, I think, in a situation within short order where you're going to be interacting with somebody on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, and it's not even going to be a person. And you're not even going to know that you're not interacting with a person until you try to like meet that person outside in real life, whether you want to date them or have a business relationship or a friendship, and then you can't because you're an AI.
Yeah, yeah, exact.
It's gonna be a mess, and that's gonna increase the desire for authenticity. And,
I agree.
so now the platform we're creating, the technology doesn't matter what, we're just displaying technology, right? So it's displaying videos. It could be videos of anything. It could be,
Yeah,
sports, it could be whatever, actors, it doesn't matter. But the programming that we're developing is very, very different.
yeah.
So
And your content, just give one sentence about the content that you'll be offering.
our content for Ethereal's mind, body, spirit. So
Yes.
it's people who are, doing intuition.
What is
It's
the
people.
tagline of Ethereal Network?
Well, it's for peace, clarity, and harmony in the
Yeah.
world. So
Love
yeah,
that.
we're working on there's other channels we have in work. So one of them I'm excited about is called Coexist TV. And
Oh,
that's about humanitarian efforts around the world. And it's about anything that brings people together, because that's really just not well covered anywhere in media.
no.
There's just, you just don't see that. And I think now more than ever, we need to understand how we can come together.
Yes.
Do we have in common, as opposed to what we have that are differences and things to be argumentative over and upset about and whatever. So I'm excited about Coexist TV.
Beautiful. This conversation is exactly why we do this show. There's so much more to unpack about how operators like Ellen actually get capital intensive visions built. If today's conversation resonated with you, stay close. We've got a community built around exactly these kinds of stories. Ellen, tell people where they can find you or Ethereal TV.
Yeah, the easiest way is our website. So it's etherealtv.net.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for plunging in with us, everyone. And Helen, I am honored to have you on the show, and I can't wait to navigate Ethereal Network TV with you and become closer as a friend, I hope. I'm Brandi Kolosky, everyone, and have a prosperous rest of your week. Okay. Thanks for plunging into sacred wisdom and regenerative wealth with us. If your soul and your portfolio just got a glow up, hit subscribe on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, and Apple. Share it with your crew. Tag us on social and join the movement at plungeintoprosperity.com. I'm Brandi Kolosky. Catch you on the next plunge.